I think it's only fitting to start this episode off just with a big, deep sigh, because, oh man.
Oh, you are teeing this up so good. Enzo, to me, looks like a more agile, basically a young Chess Fabregas.
It's a Rolls Royce, man. Gotta sell it.
Messi is the Jorginho of international football. That was a dumb take. Welcome to an emergency episode of the Flag Stays Down podcast. I feel like we do about one of these a year at least. This year's on the low end now. Season's over, but Mauricio Pochettino has left the club by quote-unquote mutual consent after a 2-day review. Welcome in. Just a solo pod tonight. I do have to give the disclaimer. Matt and Parker not able to make it on tonight. They were very clear in the group chat to keep their names out my mouth. I'll attribute Matt with that. So I do just want to tell you that these views, I'll try to keep it as unbiased as possible, though I'm sure I'll get into a rant. I will try to keep it, as level-headed and as unbiased as possible when presenting the information. Of course, give a little commentary. I'm sure that's what you're here for. So let's get into it. Mauricio Pochettino, again, about 8 hours ago at the time of recording here, finished up his meetings with Chelsea ownership, with Blue Co. Again, left by mutual consent. There were disagreements, we'll say, over the philosophy of transfers, buying and selling. Pochettino wanted some experienced players, didn't want to sell certain players. The club wanted to stick to their philosophy. Outside of that, there were questions about whether Pochettino's style and his tactical ability matched up with the vision of the club. This has all been, I would say, brewing. For a couple weeks now, at least in the public eye. We've seen the reports of, well, Chelsea would like him to continue, but there are certain board members who are unconvinced. Then a couple weeks ago, there was the report of, Pochettino's job will be secure if he reaches the Europa League for next year, which at the time seemed like it might be a stretch. Seemed like Conference League was probably the best bet. And, then you had the constant bombardment in press conferences to Pochettino. Do you feel safe in your job? Do you feel secure in your job? Are you going to renew? Is the club going to renew you? Eventually, Pochettino broke and came out and said, hey, this is a two-way street. If the club's not happy with me, fine, then we don't continue. If I'm not happy with the club, then we don't continue. And I thought that was the first real sign that things were not going to be consistent, we'll say, in these postseason meetings. You look even a little bit further on the Chelsea side, and all season it was, hey, well, Poch has got till the end of the year. We'll evaluate at the end of the year. They didn't want to make the same mistake what they did with Graham Potter of sacking a manager mid-season. So they were going to give him till the end of the year, and then they were going to review it. And that has been a pretty consistent message. But we know how Chelsea works. We know how the English media works. There's leaks all the time from quote-unquote senior figures in that boardroom. We didn't hear a peep. If Pochettino's job was safe, we would have heard about it. They didn't have to make a direct statement, but we would have heard about it through some in-the-know account, some source within the club. It would have been made known that Poch's job was safe. So the fact that there was radio silence from the club, I thought was pretty damning. And, to me, I know to a lot of people it did not, but to me, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw these were going to be rough postseason meetings here with very slim chance of Pochettino coming out of it with the Chelsea job. Now, I know a lot of fans, and man, our group chat was blown up between me, Matt, and Parker. I am disappointed that they weren't able to make it, though I certainly understand, it's the middle of the week. But between them and the fan base, and even me for a little bit, I was starting to come around. I was not fully on board, but I was starting to come around. 5 wins in a row to end the season. It makes things look a lot better. It makes it seem as if there is momentum building into next year. But I do give the club credit if they were looking at the season as a whole, because the feeling that I got, at least among the fans and listeners to this pod, was that those 5 games seemed like they papered over some cracks. So you had wins against Bournemouth, who couldn't move up or down. They weren't fighting for Europe, weren't being relegated. You had 2-1 win against Brighton, again, a team that couldn't qualify for Europe, couldn't be relegated. You had a match against Nottingham Forest. We saw Forest fight in that one. I'll give Forest credit. West Ham wasn't doing much in terms of going up and down the table. And Tottenham has been a shit show for the last month and a half. So you had 5 games where they should have been winnable to begin with, but then you look at the end of the season and, our team's already on vacation. It's possible. Now, I will give our team credit for fighting, coming from mid-table all the way up to 6th. Credit to them for fighting through the end there. But you got to look at some of the results from the season as a whole. You lose 5-0 to Arsenal. First of all, that can't happen. It just can't. That is devastating. Then you had drop points to a lot of bottom feeder clubs. 2-2 draw against Sheffield, 2-2 draw against 10-man Burnley, 2-2 draw against Brentford. And that's just recently. We dropped 6 points to Wolves, which is something in and of itself right there. There's just been some weird results this year. It's a Chelsea team that has given up the most goals out of any Chelsea team in Premier League history. Granted, there has been more goal involvements for and against than any other Chelsea squad, in the last 25 years. So, you got to take the positives with the negatives there. But I think a lot of these losses, while a lot of people will, or losses and drop points, while a lot of people will attribute that to a young squad, an inexperienced squad, and a complete turnover in pretty much the entire squad. You had 2.5 returners just about from last year. It just wasn't good enough. Pochettino was brought in to manage this team. And yes, there were injuries. Yes, there were young players. But we didn't see a change in tactics. We didn't see an adjustment from Pochettino until second half of the Aston Villa match. So let's see, about a month ago now, April 27th. So you still had 30 games this season where he just did not make a tactical adjustment. He stuck with the exact same lineup week in and week out, didn't rotate. The moving Cucurella to an inverted wingback looked genius, but where was that the rest of the season? His substitutions have been weird. He hasn't trusted the academy players. We've had quite a few academy players who've been tearing up the PL2. Then the U21s, the U18s. And they couldn't get a sniff. They couldn't get a sniff of game time. We beat Everton 6-0. And I don't think we saw an academy player feature in that one. So it just seems to me that he wasn't cut out for the job. Now, what makes this easier, I will say, is that he was on a 1-year or a 2-year contract, this being year 1. He did have an option for a third year. And according to reports, he wanted that option extended after this meeting. The club did not want to. So basically, you will get your extension if you succeed next year. You don't want a manager who's a lame duck in that locker room, because if things go south midway through next year, no one's going to fight for the man. No one's going to fight for him because there's no guarantee that he's going to be around. The players will outlast him. So this was the perfect time to mutually part with Pochettino. If you had doubts about extending him to begin with, you can't let him go into the next season as a lame duck. It's asking for failure. But I will say the counterpoint to that: who's available out there? Yes, there's the Chelsea recycling program. I've heard Tuchel, I've heard Conte, I've heard Sarri, I've heard Mourinho. None of those guys are coming back, especially Tuchel. Enough with that. All of those guys are going to want more control than the way we are set up right now. Do you really think Mourinho is going to come back and coach a U23 squad? I would love it. But the man has better things to do. I'm sorry. So you look at who we are out there looking at. God, I hope it's not Roberto De Zerbi. Oh, man. That's a whole pod in and of itself, so I will leave that one alone for right now. But Hansi Flick is out there. Hunes from Stuttgart. You've got McKenna from Ipswich. Thomas Frank, which, oh man, that's another one. I like him for a mid-table club. I don't like him for a top six club. And so it just kind of seems like there's a drop-off. Maybe somebody comes available, Thiago Motta or from Bologna would be nice. Xabi Alonso would have been nice. But the one that I think would be who is going to be available, but I think is kind of a long shot, and that's Xavi from Barcelona. He's managed at a big club. He's managed at a club where he is heavily scrutinized by the media, by the fans, by the board. So he's been there. He's done that. He's got a winning pedigree. He plays attacking football. You look at Barcelona and those tiki-taka. And if that's what the directors want, which according to reports, that is what they want somebody who is focused on possession, playing beautiful football, something that the fans can be proud of. I think Xavi fits that. But another name I would be interested in is his Spanish compatriot and former Chelsea player, Cesc Fabregas. Currently with Como, just got promoted to Serie A in Italy. He's a guy who has managed young players. Como plays a beautiful brand of football, and the clips and couple matches I've seen of them this year, they play some great attacking football, and in Italy it's very technically sound, and we have a lot of very technically sound players. Now, do you want to let Fabregas make the jump from Serie B to to Europa League top six club? As a player, he's been there, he's done it all. As a coach, not so much. And so, do you really want to roll the dice and hope you come up with a Xabi Alonso? I don't know. But we Parker and I have talked on this pod about the sunken cost fallacy, where, hey, if he's not your guy, if he's not the guy to lead this program, if he's not the guy who can lead this young group, establish this young group as a dominant force, don't invest in him just because you're here, or just because he's here, and because the fear of the unknown, and you're afraid of losing out on money. You can't do that. You're going to end up losing that way, and that's what I feel happened. Is the club felt Pochettino is not the man to take us to the promised land. Now, it does beg the question, why did we hire him in the first place, especially when we were looking at Luis Enrique. and Julian Nagelsmann. But everybody makes mistakes. I will write that one off for Blueco. They have to get this one right, though. 5 managers in the last 4 years. If you get rid of another one, a lot of these players are going to start looking at it like, hey, we were sold on a project. This is not the project. This is being run into the ground. Why am I here? Why did I sign this 8-year deal? If you're just going to keep resetting every single year. So I worry about the likes of Enzo Fernandez, but him very specifically. You look at some of the more established players, I guess. I think all of them are still too new. So it's got to be that first crop that came in. So Enzo and Mihajlo Mudryk, are they are they going to be looking for greener pastures? If someone stable comes a knocking, if a Juve, if an Inter Milan, if a Real Madrid comes a knocking, I think that looks like the more promising prospect. So, that being said, the club has to get it right on this hire. I've given you my 2 front runners. I'm sure we will see a million names come up in the next couple of days, and word is the club wants this done in the next couple of days. So we'll see what we come up with. It might be a name that hasn't even been mentioned yet, but they have to get it right. It has to be somebody who is technically sound, knows how to train these guys in a way that's not going to get them injured. There were worries that Pochettino's group ran this team into the ground and caused a lot of injuries. So, it's got to be that fine line between Potter barely getting players up to fitness and Pochettino running them to death. So you need somebody in the middle there. Again, somebody very tactically sound. And another concern, I guess, that was brought up by Baghdad Eghbali in these meetings was set pieces. Pochettino was very clear in, January, when there were rumors of a set piece coach coming in, or Chelsea wanting a set piece coach, saying, no, I don't need one. Nope, don't want one on my staff. Nope. We have conceded so many goals from set pieces. So many. I wish I had the number in front of me. I probably should have done that research, and I apologize. But it feels like maybe 1 every 3 games we're conceding. And how many set pieces do we score from? You had the Enzo free kick. Occasionally you'll have a free kick, right? Cole Palmer with another one. But corners? I can think of 2 that we scored. Axel Disasi, Thiago Silva. 2 from Thiago Silva, so make that 3. It has to be better. You need a positive goal differential on set pieces. And so his insistence that, no, we don't need a set piece coach, I find to be ludicrous. And yes, that's not the end all be all of a coach's tenure is set pieces. But if we're trying to build this thing to have the best of everything available, yes, bring in that set piece coach. You have to be open. Boley and company is coming from the American style here. And we've made the joke on this pod before that maybe you need an offensive and defensive coordinator like in the NFL. I don't think you go that far. But a staff of coaches beyond, manager, assistant manager, goalkeeper coach, give me some more. Give me a forwards coach. Give me a midfield coach. Give me a defending coach. Set piece coach. Fitness coach. I like all of it. The more that you can individualize training, the more that, and this is coming from a former coach, the more that you can go small groups and the more that you can specialize what you're doing, the more the players are going to get out of it. And this isn't the Chelsea team of 5-6 years ago where they are all in their prime or past their prime and there's not a lot to learn. Thiago Silva's leaving. Our average age is going down significantly. We're back to being a U23 team. You need people in there who can teach, who can connect with these players, who can teach. And I'm not saying Pochettino didn't connect with the players. He did a very good job of that, and we're seeing that with the outpouring of support from the players today. But how much he taught, I don't know. I didn't see it. I didn't see tactical awareness growing in this squad. For long stretches of the season, outside of these last maybe 5, 6, 7 games, it was a lot of players trying to do it themselves. Noni Madueke, Mr. Do It Himself. Cole Palmer, Mr. Do It Himself. Nico Jackson, Mr. Miss It Himself, right? But there's a lot of potential in this squad, especially if you have everybody coming back healthy. Reece James isn't going to Euros. Ben Chilwell isn't going to the Euros. Colwill is not going to the Euros. Enzo Fernandez should hopefully be back and then be in mid-season form after playing in Copa. But you're going to have the full squad at your disposal. So I think this is a very desirable job. But you need to play by the rules of the club. Pochettino knew the rules. He knew the assignment, right? We saw why Tuchel was let go. He didn't want to play ball with this ownership group. Pochettino, very clearly towards the end, also did not want to. The standard is set for this next coach. So I think that's going to set this next coach up for success. You know what the rules are. You know what the limits are. Just go out and coach. Make this team better. Qualify for Europe, preferably the Champions League again next year. And let's really build something here. Again, I apologize that it's just me tonight. I know a lot of you are Matt and Parker supporters. So I appreciate you tuning in and listening to my take on the situation. Again, my takes do not reflect the feelings and the thoughts of Matt and Parker, and I'm sure we'll get their feelings when we record next week. So make sure to tune into that. In the meantime, keep the blue flag flying high and up the Chelsea.